a piece of the true cross. B, St. Boniface and St. Clement. C, St. John Vianney, or D, St. Padre Pio, whose relics are present in the altar at Sacred Heart Cathedral in Salina. A piece of the true cross. B, St. Boniface and St. Clement. C, St. John Vianney, or D, St. Padre Pio. 785-621-4110. All right. We are going to welcome in Corrina Hudsonpillar and Katie Platten. So, Katie, I just see that you gave us $100 and came straight in. How awesome is that? Hey, if you guys want to come up here and walk in and give me $100 to give to the station, that is absolutely awesome. So, thank you very much for that.
Fundraiser, you feel like you got to drop off some money, right?
Absolutely. I got to thank you for, I had to turn your microphone up there so that they can give you. So yeah, she said, if you're coming for a fundraiser, you got to give something. So thank you so very much for that. But just so those people who don't know you, because I know we're meeting for the first time also, Katie. I know Corrina quite well, which is a blessing. But I'd like the rest of you guys to know their backgrounds also. So Corrina grew up in Gaylor, Kansas. After graduating high school in Smith Center, she went on to Fort Hays State University, where she earned a bachelor's degree in marketing. Currently, she is the donor advisor for the Catholic Foundation for the Diocese of Salina. She and her husband, Jason, have 2 children and are members of Immaculate Heart of Mary here in Hays, and they will be celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary this summer. Fantastic. Congratulations.
We're already up to 27. That's an old bio.
Oh, is it really?
So yeah, made it past that milestone. Working on the next one.
That is awesome. Okay, so Katie, it says you grew up in Kansas after your family relocated from South Dakota in the 1970s. So you've been here for a while.
Yes.
That's awesome. A graduate of KU and was previously an owner and executive of a manufacturing company in Solomon, Kansas. And in 2020, it says that you helped to start the Catholic Foundation for the Diocese of Salina, a Catholic community foundation that supports the parishes, Catholic schools, and ministries of our diocese. She lives in Salina with her husband, Tom, where they're members of St. Mary's Church, and they have 3 grown children. Fantastic. So it's wonderful having you ladies in here today. We're talking about Catholic estate planning. So I think I'm going to learn a lot also, which is absolutely wonderful. And as we're on the radio and we're talking about donating and keeping us on the air, I think this is a great thing to talk about. So I'm going to maybe stop talking so much and let you guys kind of start in on anything that I missed in your introductions. Anything else that you would like to let us know, and then we can kind of move into what estate planning is and go from there. Okay, so who wants to go first?
I'll start.
Awesome.
This is Katie. I'll start. So I did want to, if you'll humor me for a minute, I'll tell you a little bit more about the Catholic Foundation. Since we're a relatively new organization, I think not everybody is familiar with us, but we started the Catholic Foundation in 2020, late 2020. And the idea was to have essentially like a community foundation, but all of the funds are held for Catholic entities. So parishes in our diocese, Catholic schools in our diocese, our ministries in our diocese like Divine Mercy. And so that was our plan, is to create a circle of support around all these wonderful missions of our church and connect donors to those Catholic institutions that they love and are part of. So, and as you mentioned earlier, so that's what we have, about over 100 funds at the Catholic Foundation, and we manage the investments. We distribute income from them to the various beneficiaries, and we are very intent on managing them in a way that's consistent with Catholic values. So we try to invest in companies that have values consistent with what we believe in as Catholics. And we're also very, very serious about always making sure that we're putting the funds where the donor intended them to be put.
Fantastic. So I may be jumping the gun here a little bit, but to me, then that speaks to when I die, nobody can then, if I have something like that, those funds are already allocated to go where I want them to go, and to know that they're, like not being spent on a new car. Like nobody's just going out and buying, not that I would have enough money to buy a Lamborghini, but
right. Being frivolous and yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And actually, we just started doing these estate planning sessions last year. And one of our messages is that we are all responsible for creating our own Catholic legacy. And so if you don't have a plan, you may not get to honor this thing that was the most important thing to you during your lifetime. So,
Gotcha.
So it's a very nice lead in. Again, just back to the foundation really quickly. So we are also the fundraising arm. So we do the Bishop's Annual Appeal and the Seminarian Appeal, and I Give Catholic, which Divine Mercy has always been a participant in.
Yeah.
And so we're the people that are kind of behind the scenes on those things. And we also are a place where ministries of the diocese, like Divine Mercy, any parish, can create a fund with us, whether a long-term fund or a short-term fund. We even have some people that are doing capital campaign funds with us, but also individuals can create funds and they can create their own custom fund and determine who the beneficiary would be. So anyway, so that's kind of the foundation in a nutshell. Again, we're 4 years old. We've got $44 million in funds right now and growing all the time. And that's it.
Okay. So really quickly, I'll break back in here and remind people of our trivia question. I don't see that we have a winner yet. Sorry, ladies, you can't answer this because you're in studio and you can see the answer. So for everybody who's out there listening, or I don't think they can see it on Rumble, Facebook, whatever else, because the camera's not high enough. So here we go. That question was, whose relics are present in the altar at Sacred Heart Cathedral in Salina? Is it A piece of the True Cross, B, St. Boniface and St. Clement, C, St. John Vianney, or D, St. Padre Pio? Is it A piece of the True Cross, B, St. Boniface and St. Clement, C, St. John Vianney, or D, St. Padre Pio? 785-621-4110. That is also the number you call to get your pledges in. So we thank you so very much. As we're talking about partnering with things, right now we're talking about estate planning and partnering to make sure that our money does what we want it to do when we die. Let's let our money do what we want it to do right now before we're dead also. That's always a good thing too. And so call in to 785-621-4110 with your pledges. Let's chip away at that total goal of $125,000. Let's use up our matching funds today. Those matching funds mean that your donation gets doubled immediately. 785-621-4110. Okay. We are in and we are talking with Corrina Hudsonpillar and Katie Platten, and we're talking about the Catholic Foundation for our diocese, estate planning and things like that. So maybe back up a little bit and can give us a complete understanding of why would I need an estate plan?
Absolutely, Cody. So great question. And a lot of times we've started doing these estate planning seminars last fall because we recognize the need for it. So I'm going to toss some trivia back to you.
Sure.
Okay. So what percentage of Americans do you think have a plan in place, an estate plan in place?
Okay. I hate when people ask a question with a question, but I'm going to do that. Is an estate plan something different or with a will?
Okay, it includes a will. Very good.
And it includes
we'll get to
a will.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your question then?
So what percentage of Americans do you think have a plan in place?
A will or an
will,
estate plan?
Estate
Anything.
plan, anything.
I would say
plan for
50%.
50%?
Yes.
Okay. It's actually less than 40%.
Holy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that means like 60%, have a plan in place, like legal documents, things like that. Now, here's the kicker. 100% of us actually do, because the state has a plan for you if you don't have one in place.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Okay.
it's kind of a trick question in a way, but so what's, what's an estate plan? You kind of asked that a little bit with your question with the question there. So, an estate plan is all of the things together that would help in the event of your death or incapacitation or something like that. So, it can be everything from wills and trusts to power of attorneys, medical directives, things like that. You have young children, guardianship, that's a huge thing. So a lot of times when we started doing these, people be like, I'd love to come and hear about it, but I don't have enough money for an estate plan. And it's like, you don't have to have above a certain amount to have an estate plan. Like, you have any bank accounts, you've got assets, right? Once you start, having a job and you have retirement accounts, you have life insurance accounts, I think people would be surprised once they start really kind of listing everything out, what is an estate, I think it's kind of surprising. But the main thing, for me, my children are not minors anymore, but if they were, the main thing would be, who's going to take care of my kids in the event that something were to happen, God forbid, date night doesn't end well. So, those are kind of some things to think about. So that is an estate plan. It can be a will, just a simple will. It can be, a little bit more extensive with a trust and things like that. So, it's kind of whatever you need it to be. And I like to tell people, don't let perfect get in the way of good. So sometimes when you start thinking about getting your affairs in order, it kind of seems a little daunting. Like, there's, oh my gosh, this and this and this and all these documents. But really, at the end of the day, start somewhere. Start with something and have it put in place. So, you kind of asked, why should someone have it? Peace of mind for you, for your loved ones, things like that. So, and then the other part of it is, as we're talking here today, is a Catholic legacy. What do you want your legacy to be? So only you can kind of determine that and say, here's the things that were important to me during my lifetime. Here's the things that I want to be remembered for. And here's the things that, I want to carry on through with. And a lot of times you think, I support all of these entities throughout my life, right? You might tithe to your church. You might give to Divine Mercy Radio every year at the Care-a-thon. So what's going to happen down the road? You still want to support those types of things, correct? So that's where an estate plan really does come in place. So it's not only some of these legal documents, but, we always think financially, but it's above and beyond financial reasons too for having an estate plan. So. Wow.
Yeah, you said only you can prevent. It made me think of Smokey the
Only you can prevent a forest fire.
And so I was thinking, only you can prevent a dumpster fire. So,
yes, a dumpster fire in a state.
When you die, you don't want to have a dumpster fire.
Yes. Well, and that's another
Please
thing.
Prevent it.
Exactly. Please prevent it for your loved ones. I read a stat one day, and I'm not going to quiz you on this because I can't remember the exact number. I know. But it was like 30% maybe of people said that they know of a like a family conflict upon someone passing, and I'm like 30%. I would think that was going to be higher than that because I've seen it personally, but back to kids, if you got in-laws fighting in-laws for custody of the kids, that's not a good thing for anybody, right? And then the state has to step in. So that's kind of, there's a whole list of reasons why people should get a plan in place. Another reason is you don't have to have it go through probate with the courts and a lengthy, legal process for everyone. You can keep things kind of private and as you want it. So there's also some tax smart ways that you can handle some things as well. So lots of different factors that kind of play into why should you do this and do it now rather than later. So
yeah. Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Still looking for a trivia winner. This must be a difficult one. So maybe you need to call somebody in Salina, or maybe one of those people that are listening in Salina. Call Father Fred. Ask Father Fred. I bet he knows. Somebody call. If you don't have his number, I'll give it to you. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to just put it out there on the radio. However, call Father Fred if you know him, and have him help you answer this question. Call 785-621-4110. Whose relics are present in the altar at Sacred Heart Cathedral in Salina? Is it A piece of the True Cross, B, St. Boniface and St. Clement, C, St. John Vianney, or D, St. Padre Pio? So if you know that answer, please call in, give us your answer, and we'll get you put into a drawing for that gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts at 6 o'clock today. All right, we are in having a great discussion about estate planning. We're talking with Corrina Hudsonpillar and Katie Platten. And so I want to get back into that because some of this things just kind of seem daunting when you talk about a will, estate planning. I know my wife and I are at this. We have what's called a living will, but we know we need to take it further and we need to do something more real. And some of that is just like, what do we all need? So kind of where does a person start?
Right, exactly. And you're on the right track. Just start somewhere, with some of those documents. And the easiest thing to do is kind of to sit down and have a conversation with your spouse or whatever, and kind of go through all of your accounts. Like I said, there might be accounts that you don't even realize. I think sometimes people just off the top of their head think, oh, I only have a couple accounts. But then you start thinking about savings accounts, or maybe you have CDs or stocks or investments and your IRAs and things like that. So you really do, as you get older, start accumulating not only possessions, but financial assets as well. So it's kind of like thinking through all of that and then determining, okay, who's going to get some of these things. And then one thing that you can do that's pretty easy is like a beneficiary on some of those things. So a lot of times, like a life insurance account or investment accounts, you can list your beneficiaries. And, a lot of times people obviously do their spouse, but then you can do a contingent beneficiary beyond that. So beyond that, then you can list Divine Mercy Radio, or you can list children or whoever you want it to be. But that's also a great way to support a Catholic cause, is by listing them as a beneficiary on some of those things. So first step, I say, is, kind of sitting down and going through all of your possessions, all of those types of things, everything you own, whether it's monetary, sentimental value, maybe you've got a piece of furniture that's been passed down through generations and your kids don't know the meaning behind it, and so you don't want them to just haul it down to, the thrift shop when you pass or something. You want them to know the story behind it. So it's kind of a good exercise for all of us to kind of go through everything, not only financially, but the sentimental things and some of the possessions as well that we have. So
yeah, that is a great idea. When my mother passed, I was blessed so she did have somewhat of a will, but it wasn't completely specific on everything and stuff like that. And so I'm just blessed to have wonderful siblings, and we came together. They're amazing people. And so it was very easy to work with them, but I can see very quickly how it could spiral out of control really fast, especially if people start getting possessive of things and stuff like that. And if things aren't clear, how quickly that could cause tension.
Yes.
And so just hearing you talk about it, makes it even more understandable as to why you would want to, even protect your children from the unnecessary
chaos,
squabbling, anything that could come about. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just making your wishes known. And another piece of that is making sure that they know that too. So, they can carry through with your wishes and things. So,
okay. Is there anything else that we ought to keep in mind when it comes to having things ready, what it involves or anything like that?
So a couple other things that you want to keep in mind is, once you kind of go through and you have a plan in place, have some of those documents. Let's say you've got the living will, you've got your regular will, maybe you've got some of the things like power of attorney, medical directives. There's a whole lot of different documents and things that you can have in place. But once you have those completed, the main thing that you need to do is store them properly. Make your wishes known, but make sure that they are accessible. So it doesn't do any good if you have all this stuff done and then you've hid it away and then your loved ones can't find it.
You got it
someday.
in a bunker somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. You got it in a bunker and all the codes to it nobody knows. And so it's fine and dandy to get those things in place, give yourself a pat on the back for that, but then make sure that people kind of know where it's at. And we like to tell people, make sure, like maybe you just put it in a file folder, here's a copy of all of these important documents and that sort of thing. So that way your loved ones know where it's at. If when the time comes, they can easily access it and they're not scrambling all over opening drawers and cabinets and trying to dig it out. So,
Yeah.
And then, we would always say to seek the help of professionals. And as you know, in our bio, Katie and I are not attorneys. We're not financial advisors or accountants. I mean, but so, we're just kind of giving some tips and tricks here today. So
Sure.
always seek, a professional when it comes down to your particular situation, because everyone's situation is different. There's no two that are alike. So, if you need help finding a Catholic resource of one of those types of professionals, give us a call at the foundation or reach out to us. We do have a list of those. It's kind of like Catholics helping Catholics type of thing. So, because sometimes people want to work with someone that has the same values as them in mind and kind of understands that. So, we can kind of help you a little bit with that as well. So,
Fantastic. Now, so help me to understand then, because you talked a little bit about it, but pretend like I don't know a lot, because I don't. So what is, because I'm sure other people too are going, okay, what does this cost? Is it like, is it expensive to do something like this? Is it, and obviously the end cost is well worth it. But obviously I think all people at some degree are worried about, am I going to go and spend $10,000 to go get this done, or should I just do it on the internet?
So that's kind of a very individualized thing, how much it's going to cost. There are actually, you can get online and do simple wills, and you can download documents about advanced directives and things like if you were capacitated, how would your loved ones take care of you, etc. So there's some things you can do very much on a budget. You don't have to spend tons of money. There are also, depending on how complicated you get, there's some definite tax savings that you can do by creating some trusts, and but those get more complicated, and you probably need to have an attorney help you through those kind of things. So really, I think you can go from practically it'll cost you nothing to it could be what would you $10,000 or $20,000 event, depending on how complicated you get with your wishes and how you want to, if you're wanting to do some tax savings kind of things, or like we have a child that we want to set up a special trust for to be cared for in the, after our passing. So we're making sure, that costs a little bit more to get those kind of details set up.
Yeah. Okay. So if let's say that a person came and found you, then what would that kind of look like? Like they walk in the door, and what happens then?
as far as
Say they came to you for estate planning.
Sure.
What does the process kind of look like?
Right. So what we would do is just kind of talk to them about some of these things, this little checklist of, here's some things to get into place. And then as far as your Catholic legacy, we would talk to them about here's some different ways that you can leave a Catholic legacy.
Okay.
And one kind of piece of this that we haven't covered yet is also like funeral arrangements and things, which sometimes people don't like to talk about. Some people do, but that's also an important part of it as well, is making sure that your wishes are known. We have funeral planning forms as well, so that you can, pick out your readings and different things like that. Yeah. And so that's really an opportunity for you to, make your wishes known and put your own stamp on your own, funeral type of, and those services and everything. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. But, Katie can talk a little bit about different gifts that you can leave as far as Catholic gifts.
And when we do these sessions face to face, so we've been doing these at various parishes and Catholic schools, we have a ton of materials that we hand out to, help people get started, like the advanced directives that are approved by the United States Catholic Conference of Catholic Bishops, et
Yeah.
cetera. So we've got a lot of resources to help people get started.
Oh, awesome. That is fantastic because, yeah, once again, a lot of it does go back to that peace of mind. Corrina, as you were talking, even, I know people recently who have passed away and their children left the church, and these were faithful Catholic people, and were not given a Catholic burial.
I know.
And I mean, it about makes me cry, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's just so painful for me to hear. And so even something like that, having it written into your no, I will have a Catholic mass.
Exactly.
If you don't want to show up to my funeral, you don't have to, but I'm having a Catholic burial, doggone it.
Right.
And if your children are no longer Catholic, they may not have any idea what the elements of a Catholic funeral are.
That's
So,
true.
and I know, like when Tom and I started, when our, first his mother died, and then, when we started planning funerals for our parents, he realized how passionate I was about, which readings and which music
Yeah.
and all of that. And he's like, you've got to write down everything, Katie, because if you go before me, I'm never going to be able to figure this. I want it to be perfect. But I think, you do your kids a favor when you say, here's who I want to be the pallbearers. Here's who I want to do the readings. Here's what readings I want. Here's what music I want. So you can really make it easy on the people who survive you by having a plan in place.
Wow, that is awesome. So then, once you start planning this, what are some ways that people can give to the different Catholic causes? I mean, to people listening right now, to the radio stations, what does that look like?
So that's one of the things that we talk about in all these sessions is not only is an estate gift, a gift in your will is, I mean, it's a gift that really costs you nothing, right? Because you don't need the money anymore.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a best kind of gift that you have to give up nothing to
You're
give that.
not taking it with you.
Yeah.
You're not taking it with you. But there's also some great ways to do giving right now. And one thing that I'm not sure that people all know about is once you get to be like 70 and a half, if you've got retirement accounts, there starts to be a required minimum distribution. So at a certain age, you just can't keep that money saved anymore with tax-free. You've got to take out a certain amount. And in the ordinary circumstance, say that your required minimum distribution that year was $10,000. So you would take the $10,000 and your income would go up by $10,000.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you might even get into a new tax bracket because you've got to pay taxes on that $10,000 now.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you can do is leave yourself out as the middleman and direct that gift directly to the charity that you want to give it to. So for instance, they could say, I'm not going to take the 10. I want my required minimum distribution to go out, and I want to give it to Divine Mercy Radio.
Oh, wow.
So now it never becomes a part of your income. So you don't pay income tax on it. And the charity that you're giving it to doesn't have to pay anything for it. So it's a really clean gift if you happen to be in that age range and you're starting to be required to take out those stocks.
Wow.
Those investments. So another thing is appreciated stocks. So again, like Tom and I recently did a gift where it was some Apple stock that we bought back in the 90s. Well, as you can imagine, that stock has appreciated dramatically in the last 35 years. And you can make a gift of appreciated stocks, and the foundation can really come in handy here because we have the process set up to be able to liquidate those gifts. So you give this appreciated stock to the foundation. We go through the process of liquidating it, and then we would distribute it on to Divine Mercy Radio. Or maybe you say, hey, I'd like to give some to my parish. I'd like to give some to Divine Mercy. I'd like to give some to seminary and education.
Yeah.
So we will make that split. And again, you move away from some of those capital gains taxes because you didn't receive the income off those appreciated securities. So it's a very tax efficient way
Wow.
to support your favorite charities.
Yeah. So basically, if I'm understanding you right, you're taking the gains that you've made on those investments, and the government doesn't get to get their hands on any of it, which is kind of nice because we get taxed for everything.
Well, I like to think of it as the government helps you to make a better
Well, yeah,
gift
there you go.
by saying, sure, because they wrote the tax code after all.
Yeah.
So if I make this gift, the government's going to actually participate in my
Yeah.
gift to this very worthwhile charity. So
That's awesome. I like it. What a great way to state it. That's fantastic. Well, you are listening on Divine Mercy Radio to our spring Care-a-thon, Come Follow Me. And I wanted to congratulate Lindsay Savage. She is our trivia winner. The question was, whose relics are present in the altar at Sacred Heart Cathedral in Salina? And the correct answer, which I didn't know, is Saint Boniface and Saint Clement. Did you guys know that, ladies?
no,
we
No.
did
we're embarrassed to
I did not know
admit.
that
I
either.
know.
Do you know Lindsay?
I don't know.
Okay,
Lindsay,
I
but
didn't know if she was
congrats.
from that area or not. I'm not. Lindsay,
Oh.
if you're listening, which I'm sure you probably are, congratulations for whatever. If you're part of that, if you're part of the Salina listening area, that's awesome. Thank you so very much. I like to see that we have people listening from all of our areas. You know, we've got people in the Lindsborg and Salina area, the Hayes area, the Great Bend area, the Colby area. And so we really cover as much of Kansas as we possibly can, which is really awesome. I love that we are, Jesus is talking to all kinds of people all across Kansas, and this is how we're doing it. We're asking you to partner with us because right now we are having our spring Care-a-thon. We've got that total goal of $125,000, and that's what helps us to stay on the air and keep getting this message of truth out to our nation, especially out into our Kansas area, because we need it just as bad as everybody else. And so we're in talking with a couple of wonderful ladies. We have Corrina Hudsonpillar and Katie Platten. They are speaking to us about Catholic estate planning and how you can even use your estate planning right now to help donate toward things like our Care-a-thon to Divine Mercy Radio itself. Call 785-621-4110 with your pledges. And I want to get to our second trivia question. So let's do that right now. Our second trivia question here is, who was the first Catholic bishop in America? Was it A, Fulton J. Sheen, B, Charles Chaput, C, John Carroll, or D, St. John Henry Newman? Is it A, Fulton J. Sheen, B, Charles Chaput, C, John Carroll, or D, St. John Henry Newman? I don't know who wrote these questions, but they are a lot smarter than me, or they use Google a lot.
Are you starting to feel like kind of an unworthy Catholic? Like every time you ask one of
My
these, I'm
goodness,
like,
I know,
how do I
I'm
not
like,
know
oh.
the answer to this one either?
I have to Google this.
I've known a lot of them today, but these two, nope, I did not know these. So,
Then I don't feel so bad.
no. Okay, we're going to get back to call with your answer, 785-621-4110. But let's get back to talking to these wonderful ladies. We're talking about estate planning. So we've been talking about ways that people can give. And even ways that people can give now, not just waiting till you're in the grave.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you ladies wanted to add to our prior discussion before we kind of move into the next section?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I want to tell you is that gifts of property are always welcome as well. And recently, we had a woman who they had retired from the farming business, and she was liquidating some of her farm equipment, and she made a gift to the diocese for the education of seminarians of this proceeds from the sale of one of her tractors.
Oh, awesome.
And so she went to the dealership, arranged for the sale to be made, and they took their, just a little selling commission. And then we got a check for $12,200 to help educate seminarians. So sometimes the things that are property that you already own, is a really wonderful gift, something that that you may not want to pay, again, capital gains on, or you may
Yeah.
not want to manage that piece of property anymore, that can be a gift. And again, the Catholic Foundation, I don't know if Divine Mercy wants to handle those transactions or not, but we'd be happy to handle them for you, the liquidation and moving the funds on to the radio station. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes it very easy, because then you can be very hands off. You don't have to know anything about investing or stocks or anything else. And you can just go, hey, I have this, do this with it.
Exactly.
Send it to the radio station, and it's that easy. Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, Corrina, anything you had to add?
Not to that, no. No, it was a wonderful gift. And I think there's a lot of people that, there's creative ways that you can support your causes, not just, cold hard cash or something like that you typically think of, but getting a little bit creative. And that's kind of what we're there for too, is to bounce things off of you or off of us, and talk through some of those options, because there's more than just giving cash, although cash is great. And I'm sure, everybody would take it today.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we don't have that at our fingertips. And there's some other things like this with some property that can be given.
And I wanted to go into that a little bit more too,
Absolutely.
as far as estate planning is going, or leaving a gift in your will. So there's a lot of ways that this can be done. And most people, when you start thinking about, what would I like to pass on? So you probably are thinking about children. In my case, I've got 3 kids. You're going to think about, you might have other family members, like when we were younger and my mom was still alive, she was single, and we had her in our will because we wanted to make sure if something happened to us that my mom would also be taken care of. And then she passed away, of course, before us. So then we've made those adjustments, but I think you can always do, I'd like to make the case for, as you're thinking about friends, families, also think about the things that have been important to you through your lifetime. So, and the things that you supported through your lifetime, or the things that maybe you wanted to support, but funds were tighter at different times in life. So we tell people that one way of looking at it is, you could say, well, so I've got 3 kids, but then I've also got my church. And so what if you give 25% to each child and 25% to the church at the end of your life? And when I say the church, that could be like in Tom and I's case, we're giving to our parish, our Catholic schools. I mean, we probably have 5 different gifts that are Catholic in nature that are going to be part of our charitable giving. But that's one thing I'd like to submit, is that think of it as another member of your family. Another way of looking at it, and in Hayes, I know the Catholics, there's a big tithing program here. So if you are already in the process of tithing 10% of your income, then at the end of your life, one way you could think about that is, all through my life, I gave 10% of what I made. At the end of my life, I'll give 10% of what I'm worth. So another way of looking at that. And again, you can lay out, specific dollar amounts. I'd like to give $5,000 to Divine Mercy Radio. You could also do a percentage of your estate, like whatever my estate is worth at the end, I want to give that 10% to Divine Mercy. Sometimes there's a way that you can change the order. Like if you have, I want to give to my kids first, or I want to give to my charitable causes first. So you can do a balance or a residual of your estate. And then there's some ways that you can do gifts that don't ever involve actually seeing a lawyer. So when you change and Corrina touched on this a little bit earlier, when you change your beneficiary designations, so on your IRA accounts, or your life insurance, or your savings account or checking account or whatever, you can, and some of those like IRAs and life insurance, if you're married, you either need to sign that over to your spouse,
Yeah.
or your spouse needs to agree to send it somewhere
Mhm.
else. But you can always use a contingent beneficiary. But that's an easy way. You don't ever have to go and see an attorney. You just say, um, when I pass, I want the balance of my IRA to go to Divine Mercy Radio. So it's a very easy gift and doesn't cost you anything to make it. We also talk a little bit about your savings and checking accounts at banks.
Yep.
You can do a payable upon death.
Mhm.
So as when you pass away, the balance, whatever's in that checking account, whatever's in that account, just is made available to the heir that you name. And again, that could be a charitable heir, or that could be your child or whatever. So
Wow.
there's ways that you can make these kind of gifts inside your will and trust, and then also kind of on the outside of your will and trust without ever working through an attorney, etc.
Okay, couple questions for you ladies then. So one of them is, how often do I need to go back and revisit this? If I put together a plan, do I need to, like, is this something that I have to kind of, okay, well, every 3 months I better be looking at this, or like, what are the milestones?
Hopefully not that often.
Yeah, that would be a lot of work. No, excellent question, Cody. So, they usually say every 3 to 5 years, you should probably get those documents out, dust them off, look through them, make sure you're still good with everybody that you have listed in there. There could be some changes, that you need to make. You definitely need to make changes when there's been like a marriage, a divorce, death in the family, maybe a birth in the family. Other reasons would be like if you sold property.
Yeah.
Or, real estate transactions of that sort. So let's say I put it in the will that I'm going to leave, a house to somebody, and then I sell that house. So,
Gotcha.
When there's real estate transactions, things like that, or if you get rid of a lot of your assets, that's another thing that would perhaps, affect those documents that you have in place. Something else to consider is if you move from one state to another, different states have different laws. And so if you do have everything put together in one state and then you move to another, it's good to meet with an attorney in that state or someone that, knows those state laws to make sure everything is up to snuff with it. So.
Okay, it's kind of like changing the oil in your car every 3 to 5.
That's right.
Every 3 to 5. Or if there's something serious, you better get it checked
when that
out.
check engine light comes on, yes, you better get it checked out. But you can, make some of those changes, like those beneficiary changes. You can do that at any point or anything. So
I know when we first started down this road, the bishop was lamenting that he felt like his will was in need of an update. He made it when he was still in Michigan. And so now he's in Salina, and he was like, how do you do that if you've got a will and you just need to update it? And that's typically, it's what's called a codicil. So you just make an addendum to your will. So there's lots of pretty simple codicils you can do that, that again, probably would be of minimal cost to you. And then there's more complicated changes that.
So you don't have to go through the whole thing every single time.
It's just a tune-up, perhaps.
Well, tell the bishop that I know a guy who has 7 children, that if he wants to put him in his will, then I'll tell you how to get
I thought you were going to pitch Divine Mercy Radio. What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, then I'll leave it to Divine Mercy Radio.
That way your children don't have to fight over it.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, Bishop, if you're listening, leave it to Divine Mercy Radio. There you go. All right. I'm going to get back to our second trivia question because I don't see that we have a winner on that one yet. And we'll get to a couple more good questions for these ladies. Okay. Who was the first Catholic bishop in America? Is it A, Fulton J. Sheen, B, Charles Chaput, C, John Carroll, or D, St. John Henry Newman? Who was the first Catholic bishop in America? Fulton J. Sheen, Charles Chaput, John Carroll, or St. John Henry Newman. Call 785-621-4110. You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Spring Care-a-thon. Come follow me. So we have been talking with Corrina Hudsonpillar and Katie Platten, and we're talking about Catholic estate planning, talking about what you can do with stuff now with stuff later, and how to really plan so that you can have peace of mind, your family can have peace of mind. So one of the things I'd kind of like to jump back to, and I think it's kind of apparent, but I'm reading something here about, the kind of this blended plan. So, you don't have to wait. You don't have to put something in there, as we've talked about, like when you die, you don't have to just put something in there that, well, I'll just do this and it'll carry on. What does it mean to have kind of a blended plan?
Sure. I was saying, I don't care.
Go ahead.
Okay, so on a blended plan, basically, it would be giving now and later. So, the blending of the two. So you don't have to just wait until you're incapacitated and something happens to you, so that something goes into place. So a blended gift now and later is kind of the best of both worlds in a way, if you want to look at it that way. So it's a great way to support your favorite cause or people you love now, and then also later on. So
Yes.
And we haven't actively engaged in doing this, but I know of organizations that say, would you make a commitment to doing something now for the next 5 years, but then upon your death, then the balance of your pledge would come to us. So that's another example. That's a much more sophisticated blended gift, but another way of doing some now and some when it doesn't cost you anything.
Okay.
So
then, is there a difference between kind of this giving plan and an endowment? Like, what is an endowment? How does this factor into Catholic estate planning?
So the Catholic Foundation, I think I talked about at the very beginning, we probably have about 115 different funds, and some of them are what we call endowment funds. And an endowment fund, quite simply, is a gift in which the gift itself, the principal, say somebody gives $100,000, that gift remains invested, and the income from the investments is what supports the beneficiary through the years. So you've got typically right now, like our endowments at the foundation, we're giving out 4.5% per year. So the idea is that $100,000 would make a $4,500 gift every year.
Mm-hmm.
But then the rest of, assuming that the market is delivering better performance than 4.5%, the rest of that is going to grow to keep the endowment fund at pace with inflation.
Okay.
Because you want it to be worth the same amount in real dollars 50 years from now that it's worth now. And so I always describe it as the everlasting goose that lays the golden eggs. And so the golden eggs are these distributions each year, but the goose is the principal, and that gift remains intact and hopefully keeps pace with inflation.
Okay, so it's set up in a way so that, in 5 years, it doesn't just dry up, hopefully, but is able to just keep going and going and going and going.
Right. And I think there's beauty in both kinds of gifts because, again, there's oftentimes, and one of the things that we oftentimes counsel people is, if you're interested in making a gift to Divine Mercy, for instance, it would be a great idea to talk to the folks at Divine Mercy and find out what are the needs, because it might make a lot more sense for your organization to have a gift that you can use today or next year or the year after that, rather than the eggs from the gift. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha.
And so in my opinion, the healthiest organizations, the luckiest organizations are ones that have both. They have enough annual income to sustain their operations, but then they also have a nice endowment to assist with that sustainability.
Gotcha.
But many organizations may need to meet their annual budget first before an endowment is that helpful. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So again, if you're thinking about an endowment gift, I would definitely, the same thing with an endowment gift to your parish, I would definitely ask the person in charge, what would be the best way for me to direct my gift? What would be the way that you would find it the most helpful?
Absolutely. Come up and talk to Nathan. He'll run it by the board and we will figure it out. That is a wonderful piece
Absolutely.
of advice there.
Yeah. We always tell people, regardless of the gift, like Katie touched on, make sure you're talking to the recipient if you can about, hey, I plan on leaving this to you or whatnot. We've heard of different instances where, money is left, and let's say it's left to a parish or whatever. We have to honor donors' intent. And so if you get too specific with it, that can kind of run into some problems there. So if you're thinking about leaving a gift, whether it's to Divine Mercy Radio or something like that, to your parish, have those conversations, because, I don't want to leave a gift to Divine Mercy Radio that's for, certain equipment or a specific building. And you're like, we don't want, that's,
we can't use that.
yeah, we can't use that.
We don't sell RC cars here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of want to have those conversations to make sure. And then on the other end of it, that way Divine Mercy Radio kind of knows, hey, this money could be coming, or they want to make this gift. Here's some things that they can do with it.
Well, and our biggest lament, one of the reasons we really love to know if somebody has a planned gift is because when we find out about them after they've passed, we don't ever get the opportunity to say thank you.
Oh, yeah.
And especially if they don't have any heirs still alive, it's always like, oh,
I wish
what
I
a
would have known them.
lovely
That would have
thing.
been great.
Wish we would have been able to
Absolutely.
say thank you to that person before they made the gift. So, but it'd be nice for you to know for planning purposes that you had gifts coming.
Absolutely. And I could say so very much agree. We would love to be able to tell you thank you. I mean, just like right now, thank you to all of the donors we have out there who have given today. And also, I guess that's a good segue into congratulating Mary Waite. She is the winner of our trivia question. Nice. None of us in the studio knew this, but who was the first Catholic bishop in America? It was John Carroll. Okay, so I guess I'm going to have to look this guy up and start learning a little bit more. All right.
Very good.
We only have a few minutes left. We've got about 6 minutes left. So is there anything else that you ladies would like to leave us with? Because this has been a great conversation. I know I've learned a lot. I think everybody out there listening has. But I want to give you guys the last of these few minutes to give us anything else that you think we need to know.
Well, I'd just like to reiterate that the Catholic Foundation exists for the sole purpose of enhancing all of the ministries inside the Diocese of Salina. And Divine Mercy is one of those lovely ministries that is in our Diocese of Salina. And so if there's any way that we can assist anyone with a gift today or an estate gift that you'd like us to help facilitate your giving to Divine Mercy Radio, we are there for you, and we would love to work with you.
That is awesome. And you, young lady.
Well, we just appreciate the opportunity to be here today and talk about the foundation and the work that we do and how we can help people. We've been doing these estate planning seminars at some of the parishes and at the local Catholic school, and it's just been great having conversations with people and, having those conversations, answering those questions. And, we're learning a lot as we go along too, because there's always something that comes up with it. But we're here as a resource. And if anybody has any questions, we're happy to share any of those resources that we talked about earlier, whether it's a checklist, a funeral planning form, anything like that, talking about blended gifts or, your gift and a will, anything. We're here to kind of talk through that and to facilitate that.
So are you guys planning any more seminars anytime soon in case anybody wants to?
Actually, we took a quickie moratorium because it's graduation season and all of that kind of stuff. So we're just going to start rescheduling again with the school year starting, et cetera. So we're very excited to do some more. We've done several in Hayes, we've done some in Salina, and we want to get all through the diocese before we're done. So
Okay, fantastic. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, where should we send them?
Catholic Foundation for Diocese of Salina.
Okay.
And you can just reach us at development@salinadiocese.org. Typically, it's the parish priest, the head of the ministry, or the school principal that connects with us. But we are more than happy to do these seminars for anybody they're just a free seminar for anybody that is interested in talking about how to give.
Okay. And if someone personally wants to go to the same spot.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
You can go to salinadiocese.org and go to the Catholic Foundation page, and there's our contact information on there as well. So
Wonderful. Well, ladies, thank you so very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
us,
Cody.
Have a
Cody.
wonderful day.
yeah.
You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Spring Care-a-thon. Come follow me. We have a Care-a-thon goal this week of $125,000. So that money goes toward keeping our lights on, keeping the radio waves going. And there are so many testimonies of people out there who have even accidentally happened upon